Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming to an impromptu meeting. As much as impromptu, it's very, very important for Palisades Park, where there's 65% that are Korean Americans proudly living here, making their new home and making their new country, their hopes and dreams happening in Palisades Park. We have a big situation here where there's numerous ICE raids that is really affecting the community. The community is in fear. And the business are going down, and I'm very happy that not only myself in the governing body here, there's a congressman out there, my friend Josh Gottheimer, that's worried about the same situation. So please, a round of applause to our own Congressman Josh Gottheimer.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to, before we get going, we've got several people here who are going to speak. I do want to turn it over to a great public servant who does a phenomenal job protecting us every single day, just like all of law enforcement is here. Steve Kuhn, who's the first vice president of the State Troopers Fraternal Association, who I've known for a long time, and really is just such a good guy and protects us every day. Thanks so much. He's going to lead us in a pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Now I believe we're turning it over to Chris Turishkwang, who's going to give us a few remarks. Is that right, Chris? Yes. Excellent. Thanks. Thank you so much, Councilman. Thanks, buddy.
Good afternoon, everyone. Palisades Park is a town filled with many families, many small business owners, workers who are here to truly just make one thing possible: live the American dream. This town has been in history of so many struggles and so many things in the past where race has been an issue, minority issues have been the thing, but we've always come together stronger because of these. We are a town mixed with Koreans, Latinos, Americans, Italians, so many different races and so many people of faith. Yet we've all come together here to live in harmony and build a better life. This town is truly an example of what can become of the American dream. We've come together to unite, to love and contribute to this town. We pay taxes, we raise our families here. We contribute to society and always give back to the ones that we love. Right now, the one important thing that I want to be clear about within these problems and these situations within our town is this. We truly have a respect for law enforcement, but we also know that they should be acting within the clear guidelines, be held accountable, and act with professionalism. Right now, we have a situation in this town where people are walking in fear. People are living in fear. You don't deserve that. You work hard every day in this town. You put you put your heart and your soul to your people, to those around you. You deserve to feel safe. No parent should have to walk around and feel their fear of bringing their child outside, bringing their kids to school. No one on Broad Avenue or anywhere else deserves to feel fear when they open their doors for business. No one deserves to feel fear walking down Broad Avenue. This is your home. This is where you belong. We ask that all federal agencies act with the decorum and professionalism that America is held to. You are our voice. We ask that you only simply do what you have always stood up for, the right thing, and to believe that we are here to do good. Our law enforcement here has done nothing else but prove that we are trying to do better in this town for our municipality, our Palisades Park Police. And these governing people right here with us stand, and I thank you, Congressman Josh Gottheimer, for truly believing in us and backing us for this strife. Because we are here to tell you the one thing: we're not going anywhere. We're here to stay strong, and we're here to protect our residents, and we've asked you to do the same. Thank you.
Next to speak, thank you so much, Councilman, for those remarks, which I think are poignant, in the sense especially that nobody should be afraid to take their kids to school, to go to the store, no small business owner should be worried when they open the door to their store. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mike Gardner to give us a few thoughts. Mike? Yes.
He's our police director.
Good to see you, Director. Good to see you, sir.
Well, the police perspective for ICE, we monitor when they come into town, when we find out they come into town. If we have people, you see something, you say something. We've told individuals and encouraged individuals, don't confront them. It's not gonna end well. And just if you see something that it doesn't look right, notify the police department, and then we will dispatch somebody there to check on that. But you know what? We're out for, and we're concerned for the well-being of each and every resident, and so we monitor when ICE does come into town to make sure that things don't go astray. But we encourage all of our residents, don't confront them. It's not gonna go well. We're members of law enforcement. They have a job to do, and our police have a job to do, and we all want to do it in the safest way possible. But that's what we encourage people to do. Don't confront people. If you see something, say something. Let us know. We will handle it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Director. Appreciate it. Again, that's Palisades Park Police Director. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate it. And now let me just make a few comments. I want to make sure I acknowledge everyone. John Min is here. Councilman Min is here. Councilman Pasquale is here from Bergenfield. Let's make sure I hit everyone here. Anyone I forget? Chris? Anyone on your council who I missed? Oh, Christine's here. Christine, all right. Christine Wang Yun, Councilwoman Christine Wang Yun is here. Thank you so much, Councilwoman. And hopefully I got to everybody else. But I'm really grateful to everyone who's here. Thank you for your leadership. Really appreciate it. Round of applause here for everyone. And I really want to thank everyone for being here today, especially law enforcement. Very grateful for what you do. I know these are not the easiest of times and easiest things to navigate, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I believe strongly that we can have secure and tough borders and smart and legal immigration policy. You can do both. We're a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants, and that's how we built our great country, like my great-grandparents and my wife's dad and grandparents who came here after escaping the Holocaust. They came here, like most people, as immigrants. And it's how our country still grows stronger today, with more people coming here to build new lives and to find opportunity. In the United States, our diversity, which has been assembled over so many generations, remains to me our greatest strength. They looked up at Lady Liberty after passing through Ellis Island and saw the inscription of the words many of us learned in school: "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." I'm sure you all remember that, or many of you do. And I believe that you can have tough borders, keep gang members, terrorists, and other criminals out who shouldn't be here, and still live up to our values, offering the promise of democracy to newcomers looking to achieve that same American dream our families did, to breathe free. We can do both. And frankly, coming here to Palisades Park, it's why I wanted to come here. What's so wonderful about Palisades Park, like many of our communities in the area, is the feeling of just such great opportunity on the streets here, right? People from all over the world who've made a home here and are raising their families here and have built businesses here, right? It's interesting, Palisades Park, if you look at the history, I remember one day I was here and you had all the history laid out.
Yes.
And if you look at the history of this community and how it's changed over the years, right, of different communities that have come here and planted a flag, right, and raised their families in these great schools, on the safe streets, thanks to our law enforcement and our great leaders. But we need to know, and it's fair to know, who's in our country and who's not. And so immigration enforcement, of course, has a place. But it must be carried out professionally, lawfully, and with fact-driven accountability. Because no individual and no government agency is above the Constitution. And nobody should have to worry, as we said before, about walking out their door or being too scared to leave to go to work, that they have to stay home and keep their kids at home. In too many towns and cities right now, we've lost control, I believe, of that sacred responsibility to many of our citizens and to too many people who have a legal right to be here, to feel safe and protected in their communities. Instead, we're seeing too many instances of recklessness that endanger our neighbors and our law enforcement officers. As one Republican senator said this week, quote, "We're at a situation where this just isn't safe. It's not safe for bystanders. It's not safe for law enforcement." That's just not okay in the greatest country the world has ever known. Over recent weeks, the country witnessed disturbing videos, as I'm sure many of you have seen, out of Minneapolis, showing federal agents, a set of federal immigration agents, shooting and killing 2 American citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. It's not just disturbing because I just think that word doesn't capture it enough. It in some ways is so shocking. I'm sure you feel the same way. I felt the same way watching that. It's just hard to believe. And unfortunately, these videos were just a couple of many videos that have come out over the last months. Those are the most tragic ones, but we certainly have seen plenty. So now it's up to us to figure out a way to restore the public trust. And that just added, as I mentioned, to months of incidents of unidentified masked officers aggressively rounding people up, including yanking American citizens right out of their homes, barging into churches and schools, and roaming the parking lots of Home Depot and Target, and schools where parents are dropping their kids off. They're going after people with U.S. passports, literally people holding U.S. passports, acting like thugs. What's also troubling is that after the shooting of Alex Preddy, DHS officials blocked state investigators from accessing the scene and removed evidence, prompting a federal judge to order that the evidence not be destroyed or altered. In the case of Renee Good, state officials said they'd been barred from participating in the investigation. Also in the Preddy case, the investigation was taken out of the FBI's hands and given to DHS to investigate. The FBI was told, "You're not welcome here to investigate." That is not how immigration enforcement should operate in our country, and not how our state and federal officials should work together. Across the nation, immigration enforcement has sharply ramped up in non-border states, like ours, with more aggressive arrests in homes and workplaces and public spaces. They said they were going to go after, quote, "the worst of the worst." But according to reporting, more than half of the people ICE is arresting have no criminal convictions whatsoever. This includes that 5-year-old boy that you may have read about and a corrections officer from Maine. Earlier this month in Minnesota, a U.S. citizen was detained at gunpoint in his home by federal agents without a warrant, forced to walk outside into freezing conditions in his underwear. Another 5-year-old was deported earlier this month. A Maryland mother was detained for 25 days in ICE custody, despite having documentation that she was a U.S. citizen. Again, these are U.S. citizens. As I said, I believe in keeping our gang members, criminals, and terrorists out. And I have a clear record of proving that. But we certainly don't need inadequately trained ICE agents with zero guardrails roaming the streets. And let me be clear about the training. I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement, and I hope you would validate that. Huge supporter. I'm very grateful for what law enforcement does. And do you know why we have the best here in Jersey? The best. It's not even close. I know New York claims they do, but it's not even close. Not just because law enforcement is committed to our communities and part of our communities, but because they're well-trained. They've gone through it. They know what they're doing. In Jersey, state troopers, for instance, spend 6 months at the academy and another 6 months riding along with a more senior partner. Our local and county departments hold their cadets to a similar standard. They learn how to handle tough situations, the toughest, how to respond and de-escalate a tough situation, how to protect themselves and protect the community. According to reporting, most ICE officers receive 8 weeks of training. Again, 6 months plus another 6 months, or 8 weeks of training. You can understand why there are gaps, why they might not be the best trained for the tasks they've been given. I mean, to the officers here, could you imagine if you just got 7 or 8 weeks training and like you were just like, oh, here you go. Here's your badge. Go to it. How much you learn in your training and the scenarios. And you constantly, I know, are getting more training. And DHS is hiring more officers from wherever they can find them. There's postings everywhere to apply, just to get them onto the streets and to start piling up arrests. So, again, we understand why they might not be the best prepared for the situations they've been thrown into. Reporting indicates that hundreds of American citizens have been wrongfully arrested during immigration raids, and many have been wrongfully deported. Again, something that should never happen, in my opinion, to American citizens. A big reason for these aggressive immigration pushes: arbitrary arrest quotas have been put in place by DHS and administration, some 3,000 a day. So forcing immigration enforcement to focus their energy on law-abiding, tax-paying residents, rather than hardened criminals who are the true dangers to our community. By coming up with this arbitrary number, you're kind of forcing people to go do these things. It's like sometimes, I know at the end of the month, there's like ticket quotas, right? And to pull people over.
Not here.
But yeah, not here, but some places. But like, imagine doing this with arrests for here, where you just go into communities and you got to pile them up, so they're just trying to find people. ICE has conducted operations, we know, in North Jersey, including in Teaneck and Palisades Park and Bergenfield and Hackensack and other places. But this approach that we have right now is unacceptable. Let's not forget the buck stops with leadership. In this case, it's the Homeland Security Secretary. And I believe she's got to resign or be replaced. But her leaving, while necessary, won't solve the problem on its own. We actually need to fix and improve the DHS system. That's what we got to do. That's why today I'm announcing new legislation, the ICE Standards Act, to put clear, enforceable standards in place for the Department of Homeland Security and its ICE immigration officers. Standards that will protect the public, protect officers, and uphold the rule of law. These are policies that should be put in place immediately, and frankly, should have been in the Homeland Security funding package we voted on in Congress last week. This legislation is not about defunding immigration and some enforcement, which some people have talked about, which I think is ridiculous, or making it harder for officers to do their jobs. Also ridiculous. It's just the opposite. It's about making immigration enforcement better. No problem. AI. What we need here and in this legislation, it's about making immigration enforcement better, more transparent, more accountable, and making the right investments in the department and its officers. It's also about getting the right guardrails in place so that we have rules of the road to protect everyone and keep our communities safer. First, the bill sets much-needed training standards for federal immigration enforcement officers. Right now, as I mentioned, reporting suggests some officers, as we just said, receive as little as 8 weeks of training compared to the 6 months for New Jersey state troopers. That gap puts civilians at risk and puts state and local officers at risk as well. This lack of training and the horrific incidents that have ensued have done a massive disservice to our well-trained, effective immigration enforcement officers and to law enforcement more broadly. We don't want untrained thugs doing damage to their reputation of other officers with their recklessness. As one state trooper said to me, these guys wearing bandanas and gleefully pulling Americans from their cars make all officers with a badge look bad. My bill requires DHS to immediately tell Congress what training its officers are receiving, and it mandates officers to be trained upon hiring and actually on de-escalation, constitutional search and seizure, and operating appropriately when protesters are present. That matters, especially when immigration enforcement officers are increasingly operating in community settings at the local level and environments that they're often not trained for. Second, the bill requires the use of body-worn cameras and vehicle dashboard cameras during enforcement operations. These cameras protect the public and they protect the officers. Ask police here in Jersey. Those cameras are key. At first, people didn't want them, and now the officers say they've actually proven time and again to be hugely helpful. This bill explicitly preserves an officer's right to review the footage which cops know is critical. The footage also ensures full transparency for the public. Right now, the Homeland funding bill in Congress includes funding for cameras, but no requirement to actually use the cameras, believe it or not. This bill closes that gap, ensuring transparency and accountability. Third, the bill establishes clear standards for uniforms and identification. Officers must clearly display their agency with an appropriate uniform or identification, unless they receive written supervisory approval for an undercover operation. The goal is transparency so communities know who's operating on their streets. But let me be clear, I'm always for protecting officers, and we must do everything we can, if there's a reason they're undercover, to make sure they're protected. We need to keep our officers safe from doxing or other attacks. But people deserve to know who's operating in their communities and who's approaching them. This is a way to do both, and we should do it. Fourth, the bill establishes a clear risk minimization and de-escalation standards, requiring officers to make every effort to risk and diffuse situations. Protect themselves in a situation as they must, and I believe that. But if there's ways to de-escalate, which you guys get a lot of training in how to de-escalate a situation, we should try to de-escalate a situation. Fifth, and this is critical and key to our constitutional rights, the bill draws a firm line when it comes to American citizens. Every single reasonable effort must be made to verify citizenship status before they're put under arrest or randomly rounded up and thrown into the back of some vehicle. U.S. citizens may not be deported, and American citizens may not be harassed during enforcement operations. It just doesn't make any sense. Let's fix it. Six, the bill protects sensitive locations. Immigration enforcement will be prohibited at schools, hospitals, places of worship, and voting locations. Kids in school shouldn't have to worry about anything except learning. Families should be able to worship. People should be able to seek medical care without fear that they'll never return home. Because if we don't fix this, they won't go to school, they won't go to church, they won't go to the hospital. That's not okay. For more than 30 years, federal policy restricted immigration enforcement at these sensitive locations, including houses of worship. This should be the law. This is common sense, and it lives up to our values. And finally, my legislation requires notification and transparency with state and local law enforcement when federal immigration enforcement operations occur in their jurisdictions. No cop should find out or from someone else that ICE is in their neighborhood. How are you supposed to do your job when you don't know? There should be a heads up. Local law enforcement should not be left in the dark. Our cops have a lot on their plate. They do a phenomenal job. They protect us every single day. It's very hard if you don't know what's going on the street, when you can't see the field in front of you. Proper notification and communication improves transparency. It protects officers and makes everyone safer. The FBI should also be allowed to do its job and investigate, not be pushed aside, as they have been in Minnesota. These are not crazy ideas, right? These are common sense ideas. You know, someone was saying to me like, well, what do we need to do? I said, if we sat around and talked for 5 minutes, we can come up with this list. And that's basically what we did, just talking to folks. And many of these ideas, in fact, I think all of them have bipartisan support out there. You hear Democrats and Republicans talking about this. I've talked to tons of my colleagues. Like, yeah, this just makes sense. What's going on over there doesn't make any sense. You just can't have lawlessness. There's got to be a way to do this. And I'm encouraged that members of both parties have expressed serious concerns about these tragedies. I was also pleased to see that in the House, Homeland Security Chairman of his committee, Andrew Garbarino, will call acting ICE Director, the CBP Commissioner, and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Director before his committee to testify next month and get the facts together. Facts matter. The Constitution matters. Due process matters. Rule of law matters, and human lives matter. These are all things we all agree on, or should agree on. We can and should fund the government. So let's get through this week. Because as you know, if we don't figure this out by this weekend, the government shuts down. That is unacceptable to me. We're not shutting the government down again. So yes, if we make these changes, it will mean that those of us in the House of Representatives who were in our districts this week will go back and vote. Okay, fine, it's not that far away, we'll make it work. Get on planes. We'll go back and we'll vote. That's not a reason not to do this. We should just do this. So again, there's a way to do this. We can either put this in the DHS funding package, these changes, these smart guardrails, and ensure transparency and professionalism and accountability, or we could have a separate bill with a separate vote, if that's what they prefer. But we can't go on with unchecked power, which undermines our public safety, and putting officers in impossible situations and eroding public trust. This legislation is about the rule of law and making sure Homeland Security actions reflect our values. Ultimately, I believe it should be followed by comprehensive immigration reform, broader immigration reform, something that many of us in a bipartisan way have been working on for years. Too many of my colleagues and this happened, unfortunately, my colleagues on the far right at the end of last Congress decided instead of fixing it, even after their own Republican colleagues worked on a bipartisan bill, decided it was better to have immigration as a political issue to use in the campaign instead of fixing the problem. There was a thoughtful bill actually led by a senator from Oklahoma. It was a buddy of mine, Langford, who put together this bipartisan package at the last minute. A presidential nominee wanted to use it for political reasons, so it killed the bill. Well, it appears that the chickens have come home to roost on this one. So maybe it's time to finally fix it instead of playing politics with it. Let's just get it done. And I look forward to working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to move this legislation forward to solve this problem. In this instance, then take on the bigger issues of comprehensive immigration reform. But overall, let's lower the temperature, come together, and work this out. These are improvements we need. It seems to be universally agreed upon with lots of Democrats and Republicans that we can fix this. So let's just get it done and figure it out. We can do this. We live in the greatest country the world's ever known. And I know if we work together, our best days will always be ahead of us. Thank you so much. God bless you. God bless our great country, the United States of America.